long ago, we've been seeing players from other African countries coming to ply their trade here in the country. But in the recent past, it is the complete opposite. We see players from Kenya crossing to the borders to ply their trade in the Tanzanian league, in the Ugandan league. Not so long ago, we had the likes of Danny Serenkuma plying their trade for the mighty Gor Mahia. But that seems not to be happening today. Now the question is, what is the government and all the stakeholders in the sporting sector, in the football sector, what are they missing? What do we need to do to ensure that football in itself can pay? Because apart from us following football every day, supporting our local teams, it is also a sport that pays very well across the globe. In almost all the countries abroad, even in the region. The Tanzanian league, for example, is doing very well. Why is it that our own league in the country, the FKF Premier League, cannot do well? Now, this is the People Dialogue, and I'll be joined, of course, by Nicholas Nyokafi on the other end of course, at Michuki Park, but as well as Ivy Terry, who is standing by in Studio B, just to, of course, bring us up to speed with what you're saying in regards to this particular important conversation. Now, before I introduce my panelists already here with me in studio, I hand it over to Ivy Terry. Terry, take it away.
Thank you so much, Ian Keitani, who is on the other side of the studio. Remember, tonight we are asking, has Kenya done enough to promote football as an employer? We are not just unpacking the beautiful game, but we are looking at how football has impacted this nation in terms of employment. And of course, we have very beautiful guests of a list of panelists who will be joining us in my studio. I'll be joined by James Situma, who is a former footballer, and currently he is a KFOR president. He's trying to fight for the rights of former players. Ian Keitani also is with other guests in the other studio. Nyokabi is also sitting on the other side, also with the other guests who are here to answer your question. Remember, we are asking, has Kenya done enough to promote football as an employer? Please send in your questions, send in your views, whatever you have to ask. I'll be reading them out and we'll be tackling them with all the guests in Studio 1, Studio 2, as well as Studio 3. For now, let us look at some of the comments from Facebook. Mercy Defender anasema kwamba mimi nimecheza kwa miaka 5 lakini bado sina medical cover, na mara nyingi tunatumia pesa zetu kusafiri. Kenya haijaweka mazingira professional football kwa wanawake, ni hustle tu. I have James Situma here who will tackle the question. Abu, training facilities ni mbovu, pitch ni dust, balls ni chache, yet tunatarajia kucheza mpira kama professionals. Bila proper support, football haiwezi kuwa kazi ya kuaminika. Thank you so much, Abu. Dan anasema niliwahi kucheza AFCON qualifiers but bado maisha ni magumu, hakuna pension plan, hakuna welfare support. Watu wanadhani tuko rich, lakini most ex-players tunaishi under pressure. Tuko na passion, that is Collins. Tuko na passion, but passion pekee haiwezi lipa bills. Clubs hazina sponsors, training allowances hazipo, na ukiumia hakuna insurance. Hiyo si career. Situma, I hope you're taking note. Cynthia, niliwakilisha Kenya nikiwa teenager, lakini leo niko nyumbani bila kazi. Hakukuwa na transition support kutoka academy to senior level. Football career yangu iliisha bila notice. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Job anasema tuna talent mingi universities, lakini hatuna visibilities, hakuna scouts, hakuna structured paths ya kutoka campus hadi pro level. Government inafaa link schools and clubs vizuri. Asante sana, Job. Wycliffe anasema coaching ndio imenisaidia kusurvive, lakini hata sisi coaches hatuna structured paid. Kama Kenya ingeweka coaching certification na contracts vizuri, ingekuwa ni ajira safi. Mwingine ni Shiko. Shiko anasema tunajaribu lakini environment ni toxic, delays the salaries, poor facilities na pressure from fans. Kenya needs to professionalize the league kabisa, otherwise players wataendelea kusafa. Asante sana, Shiko. Mwingine ni Said anasema tunacheza kwa exposure, lakini exposure haiwezi lipa rent. Football Kenya Federation inafaa kushirikiana na private sponsors to ensure at least minimum wage for all league players. Asante sana. Now, thank you so much for your questions. Remember, everything will be tackled here on People's Dialogue on K24, as well as Kameme TV, as well as at Ivy Terry, at Abula Ahmed, at Keitani Ian, at Nyokabi Nicholas, and at Chris Migwambo. Right about now, I'm about to throw you to the other side of the studio, where Keitani is seated with his panelist for an amazing conversation. Keitani, back to you in studio.
Well, thank you very much, Ivy Terry, for the feedback from Kenyans in regards to this particular important topic. Now, joining me this particular morning to my immediate left is Athanas Obango, who is the head of special programs and the national team under the Football Kenya Federation. A very good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Thank you very much for making time. Also joining us is Mr. Japheth Munyando, who is a sports lawyer. Very good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Ian.
Maybe just to begin with you briefly, from where you sit, what is the state of Kenyan football as we speak today?
Mixed reactions, it depends. For pessimists, they tend to think that we have stagnated. But for positivists, they tend to think that, yes, we have baby walks, we have made baby steps, we are still crawling, but we are, after some time, we may be able to walk, you know, in stages, different stages of growth. You start from crawling, and then you walk, and then you run. Of course, it's a sharp difference in comparison to where we were in 80s and 90s when he played. In 80s and 90s, our league was so vibrant, and surprise unto you, that time the league was not professional. And we featured in, we conquered, we didn't conquer per se Africa, but we attempted to conquer Africa by conquering the Eastern Central region, because we were record winners in the Sekafa. Back then it used to be called Gossage Cup. So we made those attempts and we featured in AFCON consecutively. And if you make the comparisons as to our performance in 80s and 90s and today, when the drawing of parallels paints to a very, very gloomy picture, but all hope is not lost. Okay, fair enough. Mr. Obango, you talked about we are not doing that well, but as well we are not doing, we've somehow, you know, dropped a bit in terms of quality and all that compared to, you know, the back years. What do you think has been the problem?
I think what I would say is that I totally agree with my friend Wakili. We dropped drastically. We dropped, and we are now trying to pick up from what happened previously. As you said, football was very vibrant in the 80s and 90s and early 90s. I remember there's a time we qualified for the AFCON back-to-back, 3 times in a row, something that no East African team could do. Okay. But given the current situation of Kenyan football, I can say that I think there's some kind of renaissance that is coming, and people just need to be patient and give the current office some time to be able to, first of all, the first 12 months we knew are going to be tough, because it's just about cleaning up the mess that was there. And you can say now, slowly, probably we'll be able to, maybe in 1 or 2 years, we'll be able to get up from crawling and start walking. Yeah, because it's not been easy. It's not been easy, and I believe that if Kenyans can give the current office some time, we'll be able to overturn whatever is there, so that people can be able to enjoy, go watch football. Players can be able to be paid on time, can be able to fend for their families by playing football. And you just wonder why across the border teams are doing so well. Simba, Yanga, they've packaged their league, they've packaged their clubs, they attract sponsorships, huge amounts of money going to those teams. Okay. And you see now, for football to be able to thrive, you need corporates to come on board and support the game. But for now, our situation has been difficult. For almost 5-6 years, nothing has been forthcoming in terms of sponsorship.
Okay, fair enough. We'll continue this conversation because there's a lot to, really talk about. There's a lot in terms of, the infrastructure. Do we have the infrastructure that we have? Is it, up to standard? What are the policies saying? Do we need to relook at the policies that we have? Do we need to relook at, the financial, the matters finances in regards to supporting the local league? Or what is the problem? Do we just also go back to look at what is happening at the grassroots level? Because there are a lot of talents. But let me cross over to, of course, Ivy Terry and listen to what James Situma has to say in regards to the dwindling sport that is football.
Remember, tonight we are on People Dialogue and we are looking at football, the beautiful game. As an employer, how many lives does this football impact from the pitch to the boardroom? And in studio, I'm not alone. I am with James Situma, a former footballer and also the president of Kefa. It's good to see you, James. How are you? Good, long time no see. Yeah. James, you've had a long career as a player. How viable is football as an employer to an average player?
Yeah, football is a profession for many footballers. But again, we have had those players who are successful through football. We have those players or ex-footballers who have not been so successful about maybe when they played football. This is because in one way or another, they didn't experience the professionalism in our football industry. And this way, we have few teams in our country that maybe they're supported with the corporate companies. We have most of the teams doesn't have, let's say, maybe the corporate aspect, so that in that aspect you find paying players is a problem, and also honoring, of course, contracts is a problem. Dealing with the issue of medication is a problem, and we have had a couple of players that stopped playing because of injuries, because of medical complications, and this is something that we really need to address. Because if I say this, 15 years ago, when we had Super Sport around, things were well organized, and you could see the future. We could attract good players from other countries to come and play in our country. And that meant that we have a more competitive league because we have quality from other countries. That means that even our local players, they have to up their standards. But again, if we go on losing good players from our league to go and play to other league, that means that we remain with, let me use the word average players, whereby our league is not competitive. Now, it's somehow diluted, and that means that we don't get enough from the players. We don't get people to come and watch entertaining football because they feel we don't have the value of the of their money. So my thinking is that we just need to go back to the drawing board and then bring the aspect of a player first into the picture. The issues of the player, the welfare of the player, because we have so many kids playing from, coming from the schools, and they always look forward to play professional football. And the only way to play professional football is through football structures, youth structures, come to the Premier League or play to the national team setup. But again, do we have that excitement whereby a player feels I'm playing for the national team, or I'm playing for a certain big club in the country to make sure that I can go to the highest level? No.
In short, Situma, you're telling me the league has become unattractive for lack of a better word.
Of course, because in fact, if I tell you the amount of the league winner, the amount that he gets maybe after playing the league, you know, some of the teams around the country spend almost 6 million, 7 million monthly wage bill. But again, you go 12 months playing the league, and at the end of the league, maybe you're getting like 3 million. You know, that doesn't mean anything to even to the club. So I think it's an all-round thing whereby everyone has to play his role, from the Minister of Sports, from the federation, from the clubs. It will go back to the players, whereby they'll make sure that we're playing professional football and we are earning a living from football.
Thank you so much. Hold on to that thought. We'll be coming back. Of course, I'm told I'm supposed to hand over to Studio 2, but I'm with James Situma and we will be speaking on football as an employer. Do not go far. Keita.
Well, fair enough. Thank you, Ivy Terry, for that, of course, brief conversation with James Situma. I just want to throw it over to Nicholas Nyukafi before we come back and talk about this football as an employer. Nyukafi, take it away.
Shukran sana na karibu sana mpenzi mtazamaji mahala popote pale unapotupata. Kumbuka siku hii ya leo tunakuletea makala maalum mahala na ambapo siku hii ya leo tumekita kambi mahali tambarale hapa jijini Nairobi, tukijaribu kufafanua mengi kuhusiana na iwapo Kenya ama soka hapa nchini inaweza kulipa. Kumbuka matangazo haya unayapokea moja kwa moja mbashara live kupitia runinga za Kameme TV na runinga ya K24, na unaweza kuzungumza nasi mahala popote pale ulipo hapa nchini kupitia tovuti zetu za mawasiliano Facebook pamoja na mtandao wa X. Shedi pamoja na Mbogi na wakaribisha tena kwenye awamu ya pili, na awamu hii nilikuwa nataka haswa tuweze kuangazia jambo kuhusiana na miundo msingi, infrastructure. Ukiangalia juzi nimeona mnongono, kuna uwanja inataka kuenda maeneo ya Eastlands kati ya kampuni na wenye kiwanja. Infrastructure Shedi, ukiangalia imekuwa zaidi ya miaka 40 hivi, tunaelekea zaidi ya 35 years hatujaweza kuwa na ujenzi wa kiwanja hapa nchini, na ndo juzi tumeona serikali imeanza kuweka uwanja mpya wa Talanta Sports City. Shedi, infrastructure ina umuhimu gani kwa ukuzaji wa soka?
Hata si soka peke yake, michezo kwa ujumla. Nakumbuka kuna kocha fulani alifurahisha sana wakati wake kuja hapa nchini Kenya, anaitwa Zimaria, alifunza Gor Mahia. Alikuwa anafunza Gor Mahia ikifanya mazoezi hapo Kamtoyo, lakini alikuwa anapenda sana kuangalia timu yake under 20 ikifunzwa na Tomu Gweno, anayeangalia uwanja wa nyuma wa Kamtoyo ambao ni vumbi tu. Asema kama kunaweza toa mchezaji ambaye anacheza mpira hapa, control mpira hapa, basi Kenya has the best players in the world. Inamaanisha kwamba sisi lazima tuwe na miundombinu ili tuweze kufanikishwa. Tofauti ya Kenya na mataifa ya kwanza ni kwamba ni mbinu tu na vitu kidogo kidogo. Ochie atakwambia amecheza ugaibuni Saudi Arabia na Marekani, uwanja ni tambarare. Mimi mara yangu ya kwanza kwenda majaribio ugaibuni nilienda Helsingborg kule Sweden, niliangalia uwanja hivi, hapa pass lazima itaenda. Manake mali nimetoka ni mgunda ule, wajua. Lakini tuangalie kwamba ni jukumu la nani kutengeneza viwanja? Ni jukumu la serikali. Si unalipa ushuru? Si nalipa ushuru, mbona basi wasitupe viwanja? Lazima tuwakumbushe kwamba wana michezo wanahitaji viwanja. Kwa hivyo serikali inatuangusha, serikali inatufeli kama wa Kenya. Si lazima nikukumbushe jukumu lako. Wewe kwako una bibi labda na watoto, unakumbusha kwamba mke wako lazima ende saluni, unakumbusha watoto lazima waende shule wasomeshwe. It comes naturally, those are your responsibilities. Kwa hivyo pia serikali lazima iweze kuwajibika ya kwamba tulazima hapa nchini Kenya tuwe na viwanja. Kwanza afadhali hata mchezo wa kandanda, indoor games ndio hata wasi. Ukiangalia mchezo kama wa netball, mchezaji netball inachezwa mahali kama hapa, it's an indoor game. Mgunda kabisa. Sasa wanaenda kule South Africa, wanafungwa mechi kama 5 hivi ama 4, ndio wameanza sasa kupata mazingira. Kwa hivyo ni jukumu la serikali, nikilipa ushuru, give me services. One of the services ni viwanja ambavyo viko sawa.
Judy, umetembea nchi tofauti ulimwenguni kote. Tofauti yetu kama nchi na mataifa mengine ikifikia ni viwanja, tumefikia wapi?
Kufikia sioni kama hata bado tumeanza kusema ukweli. Because ukiangalia venye tu Kenyasha alikuwa amesema before, I think Kenya in general iko na a challenge ku treat sports kama a part of our society. Imekuwa afterthought for the longest time. Hata kwa community yenyewe unaona kama juzi baba dogo ilikuwa an issue. Hiyo ifai kuwa an issue ya contention sahi kwa society. Ukiangalia pia mtaani, most of us when tume grow up Islando, kulikuwa na spaces mob sana za kuweza kugusia ball, but sahi haziko anymore. So inaanza right from your point. So pia hata hiyo expectation ya kuweza kuona ati wa na create infrastructure haiko at all. Unaona, tukiangalia sahi hata venye AFCON is coming up na CHAN and all of these things, unaona sahi ndo wanaona wamejitolea, you know, they are pushing kuweza kuwa na hizi infrastructure, but the big question pia inakuwa wana mpango gani na hiyo infrastructure after the tournament, you know. We saw na South Africa after World Cup ya 2010 walikuwa na huge deficit ya na deni pia kwa sababu they were not able to maintain your infrastructure na pia ku make use of it after the tournament. So pia wasifikirie tu ati una create talanta tu hapo ya AFCON and that's it, because hiyo ni do imeingia hapo ndani. How do we bring it back to the community venye bado inaweza kuwa ina support sport pia ni some things that we need to think about. But I think in general as Kenya in general tuko na big challenge when it comes to infrastructure. Cape Town City si ati ni timu kubwa, but ukiangalia kwenye wanachezea, you know, it's incredible na ni hapa tu South Africa. But as I said, na venye tu Shadia amesema, kuna big problem when it comes to infrastructure na ina come down to pia the government will, na hiyo ndo kitu mmoja tuna struggle nayo sana.
Coach, hatuna time mingi sana, so tutakuwa tunachanganya maswala, hatuwezi epuka. Tumebakisha na tumesalia na siku chini ya 2 ama 3 mitanange ya bara Afrika ya wachezaji wanaocheza ligi za nyumbani CHAN kuweza kushuhudiwa hapa nchini. Pengine wewe kama mkuzaji wa talanta na mkufunzi wa talanta, hii inatupatia nafasi gani kama nchi?
Asante sana. Nikubalie niguzie tu ya viwanja kwa sekunde 30 sababu ni muhimu. Bila viwanja hakuna ball. Tuongee ukweli. Bila viwanja hatuwezi kucheza mpira. Kumaanisha kwa kipindi kirefu serikali yetu imekosa kufanya haki kwa wanamichezo, haswa football. Ukiangalia ati sasa leo ndio tunaambiwa tuko tayari kwa CHAN karne ya 2025 na mpira tumeanza kucheza kitambo. Tungekuwa na viwanja mingi tungekuwa na viwanja mingi, lakini kwa sababu hatuna muda, mimi niseme ukiangalia haswa karibu pale kwetu Kiambu County, bili yangu ya kwanza ilikuwa ni mambo ya viwanja, sababu najua bila viwanja wachezaji hawawezi wakapona. Ukiangalia tumeweza kutengeneza viwanja kadhaa, lakini bado hazijaweza kukamilika, na natumai gavana wetu ataweza kumaliza. Tukiwa na viwanja mbili in every county, hizo ni viwanja takriban 100 na basi timu zetu zitaweza kucheza. Kwa hivyo hata kama serikali kuu haifanyi, hizi za majimbo za county wachukue tu uwanja mmoja. Tuliona na Machakos mtu akifanya vizuri sana pale, hata kama hakuweka kiwango ambayo ilifaa, but alijaribu. Kwa hivyo niseme tu kwa kifupi mambo ya CHAN, niko na matumaini, lakini pia ni 50-50 sababu hatujajiandaa vizuri. Heri tuseme ukweli, sababu pia group ambayo tuko DRC, Morocco, Zambia, Angola si rahisi hata kidogo. Tulifaa kujiandaa vizuri ili tuweze kupata matokeo bora. Lakini mimi kama kocha nasema tuwawishe vijana wetu all the best katika CHAN.
Cheche.
Yes. Sawa.
Kwa dakika 2 ama 3 una mambo mawili ya kuzungumzia. Moja ni umuhimu wa kuchezea kwenye the right turf. Wewe najua umeweza kupatana na uwanja ambao umehitimu viwango, na wakati umechezea kwenye ground nyingine, lakini leo unapiga pass ni miss pass. Tofauti iko wapi, na pengine ujumbe wako kwa marafiki wenzako na wachezaji na ambao mnacheza na wao pale kwenye Kenya Police, na wachezaji wote ambao watakuwa wanawakilisha timu ya taifa ni wachezaji ambao mmepatana katika njia moja ama nyingine kwenye mechi za ligi kuu?
Nikianza na viwanja, mimi naweza sema I think 50% ya wachezaji wazuri Kenya wameacha mpira juu ya viwanja. Kwa sababu viwanja zetu, magoti zetu zinauma. Unapata wachezaji mtu ameacha bola akiwa 20 ama 30 years because of magoti. Hizo ni majoints, ankle. Na ziumi kwa sababu ya game, zinauma pia sababu ya mazoezi. Kwa sababu una train Monday to Friday, then weekend unacheza game moja. So from Monday to Friday ukitrain kwa ground C quality, then weekend pia unacheza kwa ground C quality, itakuwa tu kazi. So vile tu kocha amesema, na hapa Dama amesema hapo, mimi na hope CHAN kiisha hizi grounds ziko maintained, ndio tuko na quality football. Unaweza kujesaika kwa kiwanja, mchezaji apige tu mpira mbele, kwa sababu kama defender unaweza na kuchukua mpira imegonga nini imeenda. Na pia ukiangalia ligi yetu mabao tunafungana ni ya mistakes mingi za kiwanja. Kuhusu CHAN, mimi naweza sema example poa nimeshinda kipeana ni Okumu ako France hizi. Okumu watu kienda AFCON hakuwa na chance ya hakuwa ameitwa in the first team, but ilikaka after some injuries zilifanyika kwa center backs akakuja, na from AFCON mpaka sasa hizi ndio wako France na maisha yake iko poa. So hii CHAN pia wachezaji wako kwa CHAN, huwezi jua Mungu alikupangia nini juu I think kila mtu kwa hii country from the Premier League to the National wangetaka sana kuitwa kwa hii CHAN. But so umeitwa, it's your time, ujiuze, ucheze poa. Ukipata chance ya kucheza, chezea country. The best thing inafanyika Kenya. So ukicheza fiti sasa pia kitu poa, window iko open. Unaweza ingia country yote na itaochio kila mahali. Kwa hivyo mtu ajiuze, asaidie familia yake, vile tumesema. Boli ya Kenya watu wamesema kusudo. So hino chance yako ujiuze uende nje. So ucheze tu roho yako na ujipambane hapo ndani.
So watu wajue wako busy.
Hiyo ni business. Hata mtu yote kwa kampa anajua hiyo si story.
Kenyash, Dan ananikimbiza pale upande wa pili na ananiambia tuko na dakika 2. Uko na dakika 2, Pablo ako na dakika 2. Ujumbe wako kwa Harambee Stars na sijui nini unategemea kutoka kwa timu ya taifa?
Vile Cheche amesema, CHAN mostly ni tournament ya kuonyesha ligi yetu imefika kiwango gani. Na ni nafasi nzuri ya hawa wachezaji kujiuza na kupata better deals out there, because the reality of the matter is ball yetu vile tumeongelea si professional bado, ni semi pro ikienda sana, na hii ni nafasi yao nzuri ya kujiuza ndo waweze ku earn better moves abroad, na pia wa earn trust ya kuitwa national team for now the tournaments that actually matter, because hii CHAN si, yes, as much as ni FIFA recognized, haina any bearing to FIFA rankings, hai count to an official A cup ni B cup, kwa sababu ni limited to kupe wachezaji nafasi. Kwa hivyo hawa wachezaji waangalie mchezaji kama Patson Daka ambaye alikuwa ile squad ya 2017 Zambia, saizi yako Premier League. The same with Yves Bissouma pale Mali 2015 yako Premier League. So it's a good opportunity for these players waweze kujiprove, na maybe itasaidia Kenyan football ianze kuendelea mbele, because this is the first time we are witnessing something like this in history. Kwa hivyo it's either way, it's a step in the right direction for all parties involved.
Shukran sana Kenyanjui. Pablo,
naam,
dakika 2, una expect nini kutoka kwa vijana wa nyumbani?
Kabla nikwambie expectation yangu, wacha tuongelee viwanja kwanza. I have
dakika moja, ubalance moja
sio? I'm going back to Nakuru. Kuna kamera yangu ni gani? Kuna yule jamaa nasikia juzi walikuwa wameandamana, and thanks to the likes of Dickson Ogari, walikuwa wameandamana wanaenda kuunda affordable housing Afraha B. Tuna Afraha A na Afraha B. Unaona? So try kuimprove soka quality, ama kuleta hii soka ikuwe inalipa ama vijana. Wewe kwa ile kiwanja yenye wanaenda kutrainia, unaenda kuunda affordable housing. Yes, it's good, but we don't need that for now. Tunataka wachezaji wetu wakuwe na training camp, wakuwe na training ground, wakuwe na ground yenye wale wachezaji wenye wako chini county, wako division 2, watakuwa wanachezea kule. So matters affordable housing, kama CS unanisikia, in Nakuru we don't need that. In CHAN Kenya nina matarajio mengi na wao. Tuna wachezaji wenye haiba, kina Abudi Omar, kina Austin Odhiambo. Tuna wachezaji ambao watacheza ndimu iko sawa. So you guys tunawategemea sana, and we believe in you guys, na I think mtaenda far. I have so much believe in you guys. Mtapiga ndimu iko sawa.
Shukran sana Pablo. Shedi, uko na 15 seconds. Harambee Stars.
Harambee Stars sina imani kubwa nayo, manake uteuzi sioni muonekano wa taifa. Manake naangalia walinda langu, kwa mfano hii timu ya Uchi Kenya Police walibeba ligi kwa mechi 34, walipata alama 65. Goalkeeper wao Job Ochieng alipiga 13 clean sheets. Yuko wapi?
The best goalkeeper.
Ukienda NSL kuna kijana anaitwa Ernest Mohamed, 18 clean sheets out of 36 games with 75 points. Mozart Bet yeye ndo MVP. Mbona hayuko timu ya taifa? Ama Mohamed is a common name, yeye ni Mpakistan.
Ni kijana wa Nairobi United.
Nairobi United, why is he not there? Ukiangalia ma forwards, why are we considering Masoud Mohamed? Tunapiga ukora hapa ati tunampeleka kunaitwaje Migori. Huyu jamaa Iran amecheza mechi 11 kwa msimu, afunga bao 4. While we have a kid anaitwa Elias Mugane, Fortune Sacco, mabao 22. Veron Ombima, Darajani Gogo, 22 goals. Timothy Ndayala, Luanda Villa, 19 goals. Why are they not in the national team? Unaita nani national team? Na unacheza na DR Congo, wameshinda CHAN mara 2. Are you serious?
Hayo ni maoni ya Shadrack Adenga Odenga, jamaa wa kutoka maeneo ya Ufaro, tunaitaga Ufaro. Na hapo mtazamaji, ndio tutakuwa tunatia kikomo matangazo haya kwa wale wote waliofanikisha matangazo haya wakiongozwa na Dan upande wa pili. Kwa sasa nakupeleka studioni, uwe na usiku mwema.
Shukran sana bwana Nicholas Nyukafi. Na mwana Shadi kidogo amepandwa na mori kuhusiana na the team selection ambayo ya timu ambayo itawakilisha Kenya kwenye mashindano ya CHAN. Lakini let me come begin with you Wakili. They've talked about infrastructure. Now, the government time and again, during the campaign period, it is about we'll construct stadiums, we'll do this, but as it stands today, we've lost rights to host CHAN before because we did not have the facilities. So first of all, is it an issue of finances really, or is it just lack of goodwill from the government?
It's important to point first of all the role of government. This government, it is in place, but what is its role? So the government draws its legitimacy from the Constitution of Kenya. And apart from drawing legitimacy, it also has its roles clearly elaborated in the Constitution of Kenya. We have two tiers of government. One is the national government and the county government. I'll make reference to Schedule 4 of the Constitution of Kenya. Paragraph 17, it demarcates promotion of sports and sports education to the national government. Again, the same Schedule 4 on the role of county governments, if you read down, one of the roles of the county governments is to promote sports and establishment of sports facilities. So the issue of sports facilities, it's for both tier of governments. But hold on for a moment. Parliament is aware that the government is supposed to perform these roles. And Parliament in its wisdom enacted the Sports Act in 2013. And in enacting Sports Act, it's established what we call Sports Kenya. Sports Kenya replaced the defunct long time ago when you were still a player. We used to have a stadium, SSMB, the Stadium Management Board, Sports Stadium Management Board or something of that sort. I may have forgotten. Now, the Sports Act, Section 3, from Section 3, read downwards, you'll see the roles and functions of Sports Kenya. And core of mandates of Sports Kenya is establishing sports facilities. Now, it's fully budgeted for, it's fully funded. We have seen an attempt to establish or construct stadium. We saw in Kwale, where we had a national ceremony. In Kericho, there was an attempt. In Wanguru, or where somewhere in Embu. They are normally called international stadiums. In Kirigiti, my thinking is there's a genuine attempt to create for infrastructural development in terms of creating this stadium. However, they do not match the internationally accepted standards. So that even if you pretend to call it Kwale International Stadium, it may not still host an international match. You see, CAF has got its own factors, has got its own regulations that need to be conformed to for a match to host different tiers of games. There are games, there are some stadia which can host an under-20 FIFA qualifier, but it cannot host senior men World Cup qualifier. So there are different factors. And you have been around for some time. You've witnessed Nyao Stadium being closed around for reasons that it does not meet some certain standards. And again, you've noticed that we've been playing away for almost 2 or 3 years. Reason, because the quality of our infrastructure of the stadium does not meet the standards. So the government, upon being issued with the Pamoja bid, after CAF accepted that we should host CHAN and AFCON, we've sluggishly attempted, and at last it is here. So it means the government can be pushed and it can comply to establishing this sports infrastructure. But now there's a bit, some sort of bias for the reason that we are only building outside facilities for football. What about these other indoor facilities? It's important that we do not appear to be discriminating some of these sport disciplines. For example, I saw Taekwondo are going to host.
Briefly, yes.
Yes, Taekwondo are going to host some World Cup events. Is it in November or December? I'm not sure if the facilities will be available for them to host that event. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, currently for purposes of CHAN, get me right, for purposes of CHAN, I'll say CAF has really pushed us, and we are there. I'll rate the cooperation of government at 7.
Okay,
Yes.
Fair enough. Mr. Banga, I like his choice of words because he said there's been an attempt by the government. But most of the time when you know, this so-called attempt is there, it's when these facilities are hosting national celebrations. Once the national celebrations are done with, then those facilities are just, you know, left like that. What do we need to do? Does the government need to do? Because at the end of the day, it's not just about these stadiums. You know, there's sports academies. The PS, Mr. Elijah Mwangi talked about 37 sports academies in the country, and not so long ago, around a couple of weeks ago, he talked about, you know, they're going to cost around 1.7 billion that has been set aside for these sports academies, because these are the hubs that will use to identify these sporting talents. Maybe. What have we been missing? Why don't we have all this? All this time we've not had all these academies. And has that been the main problem? And will it fix and ensure that we have, you know, we identify those budding talents from the grassroots level? Because we've seen teams like, you know, Shabana, Muranga Seal, regions that have not been predominantly known for football, but they've come into the league for Shabana. They've done very well. Muranga Seal were a bit struggling, but they, you know, they were able to avoid relegation. So will that solve the issues that we have in terms of the quality as well of the players that we have, not only to export, but also in the league?
Now, first of all, I want to take this chance to say that Chan has come to Kenya as a blessing and as a wake-up call for us in regards to infrastructure. I can confidently say that the government has really tried, but it's just because of the pressure that came in regard to hosting the tournament, because we missed on hosting a major event twice. The first one was in '96.
AFCON.
We lost it to South Africa. South Africa was on standby. And then we had this, the 2018 CHAN. We also lost it, but luckily we got it back. But despite getting it back, we were still not in a position to be able to host it well. So I think that's why CAF decided to take it, to spread it across East Africa. But what I can say is that infrastructure is a very, very important thing in terms of football development. It's a component that, if we look at it, sometimes we can as much blame the government about the infrastructure. Government priorities are many. We have health, roads, everything. So it's all about pushing the government to ensure that we have good infrastructure for football development, because you cannot develop. I can maybe go back to a quote by Jose Mourinho. He once said that if the infrastructure in Europe could be brought to Africa, then Africa could be winning the World Cup back to back.
We have, like you said, like you mentioned, we allocate millions, for example, to upgrade existing facilities, for example, the Nyayo National Stadium. But at the end of the day, despite using millions, we are not able to get it to, you know, the standards that, you know, is required, the FIFA standards. So what is the issue?
You see, for me, I, as much as I can say the government has done its part, but I'm really concerned that even the second largest town in this country does not have a stadium. Mombasa, there's no stadium. Nairobi now we have almost 4 stadiums.
So who do we blame for this lack of stadium?
It's about misplaced priorities. You see, Mombasa is a coastal, is a tourist town. We have an international stadium there. So once we bid for these international tournaments, we'll be able to attract even tourists, people to come to Mombasa, and maybe generate revenue from that. But you see now, as Wakili says, there's an attempt to which is good. To me, it's good, because
an attempt is not good enough.
It's not good enough, as you may put it. But to me, I can say where we are today is just because there's some pressure to host this tournament.
Okay, fair enough. I see Wakili is itching to say something, but Wakili, just allow me to take a break, and then I'll come back and give you time to finish up on your sentiments. We'll take a brief breather here on the People Dialogue. We'll be back with more on this subject over football as an employer.
Meme TV, Muthegi wa Rũrĩrĩ. Jumamosi mwezi August 2025 live on Kameme TV. Na Kameme kayoka moinge Kameme Kewa Super Outdoor Arena Grayson Whiskey Affair Korea Quiv Sound Station Mwea Eka Rumione First Officer Jeff Njoroge na DJ Karis. Tugakunegereria iheo mama Shia Grayson Whiskey Jumamosi mwezi August 2025 Toshamanie Quiv Sound Station Mwea.
Unywaji wa pombe kupindukia unadhuru afya yako. Hairuhusiwi kuuziwa walio chini ya miaka 18.
This is a people's game. They will be bubbling about this one for weeks and months to come.
Wase, iko on. Kila game ina mata. Reconnect now. Dial star 423 hash.
Naeza kuwa sina godfather, sina any support system, lakini kwa uwezo wake Mwenyezi Mungu, in one way or the other, one day one time, mambo yangu itakuja kuwa sawa. One day one time.
Kwegwatira skize tune one day one time. Hihinya star 811 star 227 hasha. Wegwatira skize tune one day one time. Dhimoine yaku omothi star 811 star 227 hash.
Jumamosi mwezi August 2025 live on Kameme TV. Na Kameme kayoka moinge Kameme Kewa Super Outdoor Arena Grayson Whiskey Affair Korea Quiv Sound Station Mwea Eka Rumione First Officer Jeff Njoroge na DJ Karis. Tugakunegereria iheo mama Shia Grayson Whiskey Jumamosi mwezi August 2025 Toshamanie Quiv Sound Station Mwea.
Unywaji wa pombe kupindukia unadhuru afya yako. Hairuhusiwi kuuziwa walio chini ya miaka 18.
Jumamosi mwezi August
Kameme
kayo kamwigena Kameme TV tokenyitirira mathaga maitu turakurehera Mataha Festival Korea Juja Fairlands kilomita igire umete Juja Town nyebo shito iyo shito uago wito mathaga maitu Samido akuihorere Matahama Jahi Waitha Kawa Jane akuihorere Matahama Jogo John Jage Joyce Wamama akuihorere Matahama Miji Kariokiwa Kiarotara DJ Debul mambo itakuwa mzuri Koigera ne 1500 na muri adu atano neshirigi giri idadatu hora tikiti waku kuhetokera star 672 star 55 hash oka turumanire Mataha maitu
People Daily, Kenya's trusted newspaper, is making history as the first daily to go fully digital. By transitioning from print to the PD News app, we are delivering the same exceptional journalism you've relied on for years in a completely new way to experience it. It's news for today and the future. No paper, no waste. Just real-time updates and customizable stories. This is a leap towards innovation, sustainability, and a better experience for you, our reader. Download the PD app now on Play Store and App Store. People Daily. News that moves with you.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us, and welcome back, of course, to this side of the studio. I'm not alone. I am with James Situma. And tonight we are asking, has Kenya done enough to promote football as an employer? I told you to keep sending in your views, and I'll be going through. And my guest and the guest on the other side will be reacting to it. Musa, player wa Kayole, says, sisi huku mtaa tunacheza na Rosafi, but hatuna chochote. Game ikimalizika unaenda job ya mjengo. Hiyo si employment, ni passion tu, ganji ndio inabonga. Asante sana Musa. Brian anasema tunaonyesha talent kila weekend lakini hakuna scouts, hakuna exposure. Wachezaji wanareturn wakiwa 25 sababu ya frustration. Serikali inafaa kuingilia kati. Well, thank you so much. Still sticking on matters infrastructure, I was at the newly renovated Nyayo National Stadium and I filed the following report. Take a look. Once a historic monument for sporting pride, Nyayo National Stadium is stepping into a new role, and not just as a football venue, but as an economic driver for communities ahead of the CHAN 2025. Come with me. Opened in 1983, Nyayo Stadium was Kenya's first major post-independent sports facility, constructed using 5 million Kenya shillings originally allocated for the boycotted 1980 Moscow Olympics. It was designed under President Moi's directive and named after his Nyayo philosophy: peace, love, and unity. Located just a few kilometers from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, the stadium has hosted major events like the Kipkeino Classic and the 1983 Sekafa Cup. Built on land donated by athletics pioneer Sir Derek Eskin, Nyayo Stadium holds deep roots in Kenya's sporting history. Following renovations that began in August 2024, Nyayo reopened in July 2024, boasting a new 3,000 lux floodlights, CCTV, VAR tech, VIP lounges, and digital ticketing systems. These upgrades aim to guarantee safety and enhance match-day experience. I'm currently standing at a fully renovated Gate 8. Now, in March 2025, the Nyayo National Stadium played host to a Kenya versus Gabon friendly match, a test match ahead of the CHAN 2024. And despite a sellout, the match exposed major gaps in crowd control as fans broke through the same gate to access the pitch. The CHAN local organizing committee has promised strict access control and improved security protocols to avoid past vandalism and ensure smooth operation.
We have now facilities that will go beyond CHAN and AFCON. Nyayo and Kasarani are now first-class venues that any competition can take place. Beyond CHAN and AFCON, Kenya can even host World Cup under 17, Women under 17, and World Cup under 20. So our security team and our stewards will make sure that we control the crowds at least 1 kilometer away from the venue. If you come and then you are not allowed to enter, that congestion can cause stampede. So we have said there will be no ticket sale on the day of the match.
Security tumeangalia, tumekuwa tukichunga iko sawa, isipokuwa kuna mechi zingine kama kuna mchuano kama wakati ule wa Gabon, Kenya vs Gabon, kulikuwa na issue kidogo. Ile Gate 8 ilivunjwa kwa sababu ya mashabiki wengi ambao walizidi askari wenye walikuwa wamepangwa pale.
Nyayo will host 5 CHAN 2025 Group F fixtures featuring football giants like Morocco, DR Congo, Angola and Zambia. But beyond the pitch, the tournament is expected to trigger a surge in local economic activity.
Inakuja tunatarajia, hii CHAN inakuja saa hii, tunahitaji tukue na security. Tukiwa na security tunaweza kufanya kazi mzuri kwa sababu hata mapato ya hiyo kazi iko kidogo. Kwa hivyo ndio tunatarajia sasa.
Kwa michezo nakuja hapa, kwa biashara naona biashara itakuwa mzuri, na Wakenya tafadhali naomba Wakenya msiwe na furugu, mkuwe na amani. Mkuwe na amani, Kenya yetu kuwe na amani, hivyo na tuendelee na biashara vizuri. Harambee Stars timu yetu inaombea mazuri kwa kabisa. iwini vizuri.
From hotels to transport to food vendors and service providers, businesses in the Nyayo neighborhood are bracing for a windfall. The influx of funds, teams official and players is set to create jobs and pump revenue into the area.
Biashara hapa Nairobi West. So sana hapa Nyayo tunategemea watu wa sporti. Wale wanakuja kucheza hapa. So wakati kama hiyo ndio tunapata faida. Jezi za Kenya, bendera, tukaa hizo. So hii tena ninakuja natarajia nitauza sana. Na waambia mashabiki wote wa Harambee Stars tukuje hiyo siku tujitokezee kwa wingi, tukuje tusapotiane sababu Harambee Stars lazima tuwaunge mkono, ni watoto wetu wa Kenya, lazima tuwaunge mkono ili pia wao watie bidii.
Sana sisi watu wa chini tunajivunia sana, tunafurahia sana sababu familia yetu inapata kitu ya kila siku hivyo. Tena tunashukuru tena kwa serikali ya Kenya kwa vile imeandaa hii chani huku Kenya. Kama Harambee Stars naweza omba hiyo siku ya kwanza, naombea sana washinde hiyo nini, sababu tuko na hiyo nguvu ya kuandaa hii michezo hapa bila tatizo yoyote, sababu tukiwatch ama tukiangalia michezo na bila timu yetu ija qualify ama injaendelea na chani vizuri, hatutakuwa tuko na imani vizuri. So tunaishambikia, tunaipea heko kwa wachezaji na pia coach.
As the CHAN 2024 approaches, Nyayo is more than just a stadium. It is a symbol of opportunities where sports creates jobs, drives businesses, and transforms lives. For communities around it, the beautiful game becoming a beautiful opportunity. Ivy Terry for K24, Nairobi. Well, that is a well-detailed report of the Nyayo Stadium. And I'm just going to ask you, my guest, James Ituma. Nicholas Musonye says Nyayo National Stadium and Kasarani are world-class. Is it true?
Yeah, we have a saying in Swahili.
Or are we just cleaning up for the guests to come?
No.
When Chan goes to...
we have a Swahili saying that says, mgeni njoo
mwenyeji apone.
Apone. So, tumepona. And ukiangalia the two fields, of course, they have been our international stadium for a couple of years. Yeah, it's all about the maintenance to keep them in shape, to make sure that it continue hosting the games. And a few months ago, it was an irony whereby we did host a couple of matches, international matches outside our country. And remember, in East Africa, I think we are only country that we have a player who has won the Champions League. So hao wachezaji wamekuwa wakicheza wapi? Unaona? That's a question.
Yes.
So ninakuambia kwamba for us, of course, is a good platform for the players, for the Kenyan players, because after all this, wakati wameenda, tutabaki na viwanja zetu. Unaona? So swali itakuwa ni, can we maintain these fields? Because if you go some years back when we had the Machako Stadium, it was a very good stadium. I remember 10 years ago when I was still playing football, I did play there a couple of games, and it was a very good stadium, good surface. Then what happened? We had Mombasa Municipal Stadium. We had Afra, of course. It's being renovated, and I think it's just some few time maybe it will be ready to be used. But again, you ask yourself, do we have enough playing fields? Because if we want to play at the top, we want good players, we want good quality, then tunataka hizi viwanja ziende kwa grassroots. Kwa sababu you can't expect a child in that academy ana train pale kwa vumbi, ana train whereby ball kila time inakuja nafanya hivi, and then at the top akuja acheze stadium imekaa. In fact anafia kwa hii uwanja na feel niko happy, unaona. So we just need to do more on facility, in terms of facilities. And in this I want to say that everyone has to play his role, you know. I heard Obango saying that we need to push the government. For me, I feel we don't need to push anyone. Yeah, you know, kila mtu ana role yake ya kucheza. And ukiangalia even in war-torn countries, sports has always brought peace in those countries. Ukiangalia, we have tunakunangana kitu kwa hii country yetu every December holidays. In fact, in every town, even in the villages, we have tournaments, and these tournaments are being organized by the politicians. Now, what happens after December, or what happens after their intention that I want to go, maybe I want to vie for certain seats so that I use football. So we just need to come up with a long-term solutions whereby even the grassroots football, we just need to play like, let us play a league. Because like now, I'll give you an example. We have school ball games. It always happens during second term. What happens to this kid that trained, played on one weekend, his team was eliminated, you know, akarudi kwa class. Nini nafanyika hapa in between? That means 12 months tena amekaa hachezi ball. So it's all about the structures that we really need to come up with the structures to make sure that the kids are more developed, and this will reflect in to the national team. So for me, I think it's an opportunity. CHAN is our biggest tournament in the continent. So us hosting, it gives even the players the platform, because kama ulikuwa unataka kwenda soko imeletwa kwa mlango, unaona, and the CHAN tournament being of course played by only local based players, it gives them a very good chance to, of course, to get the good opportunity to play in more advanced or professional leagues. Because our league, as we say, professionalism, we don't have structures, the clubs are not doing enough to come up with maybe being creative, being innovative, to make sure that they sell the product. Because for us, even, I'll give an example, even for me personally, I feel, even CHAN, we haven't done that market to make sure that CHAN imeonekana kila mahali. Ingekuwa wimbo zinaimbwa, of course, when you wake up in radio stations, in TV stations, people when they're watching news, every single minute or time, kuna kitu kanapita ka CHAN. Mtu mwenye hata juu mambo ya bola anaona. But I think in that field we're doing less, and we just need to do more. So it's a test for us, because we likely, of course, we're expecting to host Africa Cup of Nations come 2027, and these are very, very really tests to make sure that are we ready to host a bigger tournament than CHAN.
And then I'm asking you, as a K4 president, you've encountered several cases of players being exploited in this country. If I want to play, let's say, for Gor Mahia, and I know the chairman or I know the patron, I can just go and talk to them, hey manze, can you suniache nicheze? There are no real contracts for players. Have we put in place the right structure so that when I play for this club, for example, I spoke to you and I played for Gor Mahia, I get injured, there's an insurance for me to cover that for me, because I know there are cases of so many players who used to play good football, but when they get injured, we forget about them. They are on Facebook ranting, saying, oh manze, you know me nilikuwa nacheza ball, sai injury ilikuja. No one cares about me. The federation is silent. K4, you're trying to fight for the rights of players. How many successful cases do you have? Can you mention for us here on TV? And also, are there right structures for Kenyan football now as an employer, that even if I'm playing, I'm safe that in nikipata injury, I leave the pitch, there's someone to take care. There's an insurance to take care of me. Yeah,
Ivy, we have a broken system in our football industry, and I'll say this, I mean this, whereby clubs are not being honest, and in that I say that when they are giving the players the contract, they don't give them time to go through the contracts to make sure that wanajua wana sign nini. Na pia for the players, we always try to tell them that before you sign a contract, make sure maybe have a copy. Kitu najua wachezaji wanaogopa kwa sababu most of the times our clubs wanapenda kusaini wachezaji wenye uko free. They don't like to spend, you know. So at times maybe when I'm being dropped by team A and I want to join team B, so I'm desperate, you know. When I go to team B and they give me the contract, you know, mali ndaangalia tu mali pa pesa na mimi na sign. Sijaangalia maybe what are the termination clauses, what are the maybe transfer clauses if I want to transfer from this team to another team. Now, what we're trying to do, we have a lot of successful stories. It's just that when we have these legal cases, we don't come up publicly, because at the end of the day, when I have an issue with you and maybe we went to court and I won the case, if we publish, remember this player needs also to join another team, and most of the teams, they don't want to associate with maybe huyu ni mchezaji wa kesi. So at times when we deal with those cases, inakwanga between us na players, and we have so many successful stories. And now what we are trying to do now, we came up with a draft, an MOU draft, of course. We have sent to the current Football Federation, of course. During last year, we did share with the former president, that was Nick, about the same. And everything that's being in MOU, it's all about the players' welfare, the standardized contracts, because as footballers, Kenya Footballers Welfare Association, we believe a player should have at least 4 original copy of the contract. One has to go to the federation, the second remains with the club, one has to remain with the player, and another one comes to the players' organization because they are our members. Now, what happened is that the players are not being given the copies of the contract with the reason the clubs they know. You know, at times when a player goes to sign the contract, anasign mali kuna pesa peke yake, the duration, maybe we agree with the club that I'm playing for this certain club for 2 years. What happens if the club feels that this player is too young and has future, wanaenda wanaongeza miaka zingine 2, unapata 4. So mchezaji akicheza na hajapewa contract copy, ikifika that time ana feel okay, it's my time to move, akienda huko anapata bado ako
2 years
exactly zenye umeongeza. Now what we are trying to tell the federation is that we have everything in the club licensing, whereby the clubs has to have official, of course, physical address. At least if you can't pick my call, you can't reply to my email, naweza tembea walk in, nikuje hapa kama ni K25 wapi, nikuje niongee. So hizo ni vitu tunajaribu sana from the federation. They need to implement club licensing aspect, and for us we need to have an MOU whereby hata the players wenye wako national team, hizi aspect za tunadai allowance, wameenda wametoka game, wamekuja, unapata mchezaji anasema a certain game sijalipwa pesa, unaona. We need to have this agreement whereby if a certain thing happens, we have the right button to press, like we agree this way, you have to do this way, unaona. And then what we are also telling the federation, through the federation, and we can work together, we need to empower, or rather let me say capacity build the club administrators, because most unapata ndio we are running the club, but again do I have the right structure? Ama na run club professionally? So unapata sometimes ignorance, time ingine sijui tu. So we need to at least sit down as club administrators also to take through na tuambie, by the way, for you kurani kitu ama kudila mchezaji inakana equate this way. Ukiangalia cases mingi zenye zimekuanga tu ni a club doesn't agree, maybe agree na mchezaji on just maybe the kuongea tu inakuwa ni issue.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna have you to hold on that thought. We cross over to Ian Keitani, who is on the other side of the studio. But when we come back, we continue to expound on player exploitation as well as football as an employer. Please remember to send in your feedback, your views, your question, because all the panelists will be handling that. Back to you, Keitani, on the other side of the studio.
Well, indeed, thank you very much, Ivy Cherry and James Situma in Studio B. Now, right about now, I want to cross over. Of course, we'll have a conversation, Vazium, with one Rose Magas, the CEO of Rover Sports Academy. Now, Rose Magas, I don't know if you can hear me. Now, where are you talking to us from in the United States? And just briefly, tell us about your own sports academy. This is an academy that signed a contract with 7-time French champions Olympique Lyon. Tell us a little bit about this particular sports academy and what you are up to as an academy.
Oh, thank you, Ian. I can hear you loud and clear, so I believe you can hear me too. I'm speaking to you from Cleveland, Ohio right now, where I am here as the primary role that we are given as a mother. So I'm here supporting my son, who is actually playing football, or as the Americans call it, soccer, here in the US. So talking about Rover Sports Academy, which I did found in 2019, and the journey that we've gone through. One, I want to come into this conversation with the fact that, when we talk about sports, we are talking about sports starting at a very early age for all sports around the world. Sports starts at a very early age, and that early age is when the children are actually growing. Yet, how do we combine education and sports? And that's what Rover Sports Academy is all about. It is about combining sports and education and making sure that we integrate that from the very beginning. So I don't know if that's sufficient, Ian, for starting us off, or do you need any more information about Rover?
Fair enough. Ms. Rose, I mean, we are looking at sports academies because at the end of the day, these sports academies here in the country is considered, these academies where only rich kids go to. Now, my question is, Ms. Rose, these sports academies, it is considered, academies for kids from, well-off families. Now, question is, what have we missed? Because can the government probably come in and say, we have set up very good sports academies rather, because there are kids from, slums who want to get into these academies, who have, talents when it comes to matters football, but they do not have, the funds to access these academies here in the city and, across the country. So what can the government do to try and, bridge that gap? The PS talked about, 1.7 billion being set aside to construct around 37 sports academies here in the country. Will that solve the problem?
So one, I want to say you haven't missed anything. No one has missed anything. It is the collective actions that we all have to take. Now, one big thing that I think we need to be very clear about, sports costs money. It doesn't matter. For the player, if we're looking at football, let's talk about just kitting that player. I'm not even talking about facilities. Let's talk about the player themselves. So there is kitting that player. There is feeding that player. There is the nutrition part of that player. There is moving that player from one point to another for them to be able to compete with peers or higher level. So when we're looking at that sports just cost money. Now, I think if we were to talk about anything that is missing from my perspective is then we have not looked at the middle. We are looking at, yes, the people who have money can pay, academies are expensive and stuff, and then we are looking at people who don't have money from the slum and cannot be able to pay. What about the middle? The middle who can pay, who can partly pay, they are not as talented. However, we know that hard work at some point can actually pay off. What about these middle that can afford to pay? However, they might not end up in the field and end up in the ecosystem. What am I talking about here? Let's look about the pathway and how do we look at. The US is one of the key examples of how sports works in the ecosystem, taking children through high school to college to professional. Tiger Woods, who played golf, went through to Stanford University before they became professional. And today, if you look at the golf tour, a number of those players are actually in university, playing at university. Now let's look at the MLS in the US. Now they're drafting players from colleges. And so if we are not getting our children through the college system, then we are not also missing out on something there. 3, there is the people who played sports in college did not make it to professional, but are in leadership roles within the organizations, within corporates that are able to offer partnerships in terms of, people have been talking about sponsorship versus partnership. Being in that particular position, and I have an example of a player that played for University of Dayton, graduated there, finished, played the entire time, did not go professional, but ended up as the global vice president for Nike. Now, you go to University of Dayton and you have, a whole lounge sponsored by him. But then there is a partnership with Nike. Statistics are also showing that about in the Fortune 500 companies in the US, 94% of women CEO played sports at one point, and 52% played sports in college. So this is what I'm saying. If we can be able to do education and sports at a very early age, so that when we drop off from sports, we are able to still be in the industry and not be in the field. So that's I think that's the middle part that we are missing out when we look at the extremists. Those who have money and those who come from the slums. There is a whole middle class level that we are missing out in that.
Well, fair enough, Rose. Before I let you go, maybe just to point out, as an academy, how many sporting talents do you have? How many kids do you have under your academy right now? And probably what number have probably transitioned to join various teams from your academy? And again, I'd want to really know. You've talked about incorporating schools. Now, we have incorporated sports in our school curriculums, but also how can we incorporate these schools in terms of, and these institutions rather, in terms of sports science and talent development, so that we can be able to get all-rounded players as well and improve our sport.
talk about, the capacity and stuff, because this is a very new concept, of course, for a number of people, and then it costs money. So it comes back to how many people can actually be able to afford. I can tell you in 2022, end of 2022, we did have 13 students that were doing the full program within the academy. Of those students, 4 of them have made, actually 6 of them have made it through different academies around the world. I actually have 3 of them in a sports academy in the US at Spy Academy. And just today I had a meeting with an agent that is looking at placing them in colleges for them to be able to play. So for me, it's not about the masses, it is about the depth. What is the depth for this individual player that then comes in? Because as we know, when you come to the field, football, it is for the masses, but there is individual players, there is individual contract. So just looking at that and going into the depth of the different components that we are looking at. Rover Sports Academy is dealing with 6 sports as we speak, actually 7, with esports being one of them. Basketball is another one, swimming is the other one, track and field, which is athletics, is the other one, football and tennis. So we're looking at all these ecosystem and putting children into a competitive environment where they are interacting with their peers. Today you're playing, you've come from a football match where you lost and stuff. You have a friend within, the school that then has just come back from a tennis tournament and has won a tennis tournament, and therefore you're able to be in that particular spirit environment of winning and losing, and understanding that it's in the long range, and then also understanding that it's about partnerships and working with partnerships across the platform and making sure that we go through the system. Of course, that having been said, being as an African and coming from Africa, I understand that we do have, poverty is one of the things that we can't run away from, and there's talent in those people that cannot be able to afford. So of course, we are actively working with partners to be able to secure some scholarships to actually be able to offer that level of depth to whichever students come to us, even without the money that is needed.
Well, fair enough. Just in 30 seconds, Madam Rose Magas, what do you make of the local league here in the country? Some quarters do think that we've sort of stagnated. What is the big problem that we have so that, such that our league is not progressive as compared to other leagues in other countries? And what needs to be done to solve this problem that we have?
Tom Stuma alluded to it when he said, this one child that played that first week and lost, and then what happens to them the rest of the 12 months? It is, we need to have an ecosystem, especially at the lower level, at the youth level. Youth level funnels a lot of the money that we see at the professional level. And if you look at any country and see how successful they are, you look at the youth level and how many players are engaged at the youth level in the sport, you will see that the funneling of money is actually following that particular system. So I would say having at lower levels competition. I know it's hard to say, but you cannot have a kid coming from or a player who's been playing through the age of 17 friendly matches and then expect them to go to competitive matches. We've got to build that league, and actually that's one of the things that we were working with in the partnership with Olympic Lyon. Olympic Lyon came into the country and had a meeting with FKF and said, if we're going to support this, we've got to look at the whole ecosystem, and particularly what leagues do you have, what competitions do you have for the children between 13 and 15 years old? Because once you build that layer, you're able to get to the next level. You have social capital from the parents, you have social capital from the people who have facilities and who've been going through this. You can be able to get partnerships, sponsorships to move to the next level. So I think that layer, if somebody can be able to address that layer and compact it with anything, at that particular point, why I call it social capital, the parents are willing to put in the money for their children to play over the weekend, for their children to play, and that money collectively can then be able to help us to build that ecosystem. Look at Chipkizi Cup in Tanzania. It is flooded. You go to the border, to Namanga border during that time, and it's flooded with parents and children crossing the border to just go and get good competition and stuff. So, and this is a tournament that barely has over 17 players. Most of them are 17 and under. Under 7 is full. You've got to book in advance. So if we can be able to have that kind of ecosystem in Kenya, I believe we can be able to go and feed back into the bigger picture.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Rose Magas, for joining us this particular evening. Now, let me come to you, Mr. Branguro. You talked about corporates not, getting into our league. Why are we not getting these corporates, supporting our leagues? Why are we not getting investors getting into our league? Is it about mismanagement? Is it about, unprofessionalism? What is the problem?
I'll give you an example of, we used to have a league called Super 8, which I was in charge, and it was a grassroots league, and we used to attract a lot of sponsors in terms of how we packaged it and how we were able to pitch to sponsors and tell them what kind of value they're going to get in return. But the biggest problem we have is accountability and transparency. That sponsors come on board, they give you money. Once they give you money, you need to account for this money. How are you going to spend this money? Because you find a league is sponsored and a club is playing in the Premier League, cannot even pay players for 6 months. Players struggle every day in, day out. And then the league, you say the league is sponsored. So these are some of the things that scare away sponsors and make football look like it's not big business. As we all know that football is big business. You just go across the border, you see how big football business is. Younger Simba making a lot of money through corporates. Just the other day we saw Simba sign a massive 300 million a year deal with Betway. What does that tell you? That these guys, they have structures that are transparent, that when a sponsor comes in and they get the value for their money. I think we just need to, it's so funny that we might even want to go to benchmark in Tanzania to see how a country that we used to, a country that their former president used to say that you don't have to go to New York to see pleasant things. You just need to cross the border to Namanga, go to Nairobi. Nairobi is New York. But nowadays, our players are running from Kenya to go to play in Tanzania, which the league is more attractive because the teams there can sustain players, can be able to pay players. You just see what our player just the other day crossed to Simba, how much is going to be paid. And you imagine a player playing for a club here in the Premier League. A player cannot even afford to pay rent, simply because nothing is forthcoming. So we just need to package ourselves in a way that we can be attractive. We can be attractive in terms of Kenyans love football. Look at the first match for CHAN. The tickets are sold out. What does that tell you? People are hungry. They want to come to the stadium to watch football and enjoy football. So it's about having an environment where it's conducive for the corporate to come in, and we can be able to have multiple sponsors of the league.
Before I go to Wakili, as a federation, Mr. Brangar, what are you doing to ensure that we can get these corporates? I know you're still new, you just got into office not so long ago, but what is the vision of the federation in terms of ensuring that we can incorporate these corporates, who can pump in money to these teams and the league? And number two, what is the vision of the federation in terms of uplifting grassroots football? We have the top tier league, but the lower leagues as well, because it's if the topmost league is struggling, you can only think and imagine about the lower tier league, lower tier leagues.
I think everything is enshrined in the manifesto of Hussein Mohammed when he was running for presidency, and it was 3 pillars about youth development, infrastructure, and trying to attract corporates to come on board to support football. Because we have multinational companies here, we have local companies here who are making money, and this money should be pumped into football. But you see, given the situation that was there before, nobody could imagine bringing football, bringing money to football when breaking news tomorrow morning is the president of the federation is handcuffed, being taken to court for embezzling football money.
Okay.
That was happening before. But I think now, I believe things are going to change. The federation, this is the 7th month, I think, let's say the 7th month, the federation has been in power. And a lot is happening behind the scenes, it's like trying to resuscitate somebody, it's getting from the ICU to the HDU. Eh? Okay. You see, probably end up in the ward and maybe start a recovery process. Yeah.
Fair enough. Wakil will be coming to you in a moment, but just because I want to finish up with the issues of finances and all that, there's somewhat corruption. The issue of match fixing as well, it is really hurting our football and the game in itself. As a federation, we've recently had issues of players who have been allegedly engaged in match fixing. How are we going to sort out that mess?
I think sorting out match fixing has become a disease in our football, and we have to put up concrete measures to be able to curb it, and probably criminalize. Wakili can maybe help us here. You criminalize match fixing so that you'll never see somebody. You manipulate a match knowing the consequences that you might end up in jail. Yeah. But it's very different here. So we have to find mechanisms of ensuring that putting up legislation and ensuring that match fixing is a criminal offense. That anybody found to be manipulating or trying to fix a match is taken to court and charged. Okay. But it's a process. It's a process that probably it might take time for us to achieve this. But it's a problem that has been caused by lack of resources in football. Because a player has not been paid for 6 months. This player, you offer him some money, he will manipulate a match because this guy is hungry. Okay. But if you have a league that is vibrant, that out of all the 18 clubs can sustain themselves for 10 months, the period of where the league runs for 10 months. These clubs can sustain themselves. They can be able to pay their overheads, pay players, do everything, so that they don't have this kind of problems. Then we create a scenario whereby we have a cut whereby all clubs must not pay salaries less than this amount of money. Okay. We put a cut whereby no team is allowed to pay less than 100,000 shillings. Then you'll see Kenyan football thrive. Okay, fair enough. Wakili, because I want to throw it over to the other studio before we come back and conclude. Let's talk about these matters or issue of match fixing. How can we solve it in terms of putting up legislation or coming up with legislations that can solve this menace once and for all? Because nobody would want to invest in a league where match fixing is the order of the day.
Yeah, sure. Before I wade into match fixing, it's important to clarify and probably sensitize the public and the viewers on the issue of academies. You asked about academies, and the PS was making a revelation or disclosure that they're going to spend, is it 1.3 billion? 1.7. Now, the Sports Act establishes the Kenya Academy of Sports, and one of the roles of the Academy of Sports, it is well enumerated in Section 33, and Section 33 creates the Kenya Academy of Sports, and Section 34 establishes the roles and functions of the Kenya Academy of Sports. Some of the beneficiaries of the Kenya Academy of Sports or the Talanta Hela programs, you saw the Talanta Hela program sponsored the league that unearthed Amos Wenjala and Adrian Kibet. You also saw the ladies team which qualified for the World Cup under 17. They were hosted at the Kenya Academy of Sports through the Talanta Hela program. So the government is purposely investing in this Kenya Academy of Sports, which is going to be the superintendent of all the academies. Now the government is going to establish the academies all through in constituencies, I think, and the Kenya Academy of Sports will be in charge. So perhaps maybe I'm throwing it back to you specifically, find out some time, visit the Kenya Academy of Sports, its neighbors Obango, Mwiki, and you could find out on what they're doing. Now back to match fixing, my view, I've always said this. Yes, we may need to legislate through parliament, and again I'll say there's no need for us to legislate through parliament. Why am I saying this? Already we have the FKF anti-match fixing rules and regulations 2016. There already statutes within the FKF framework that can combat this this aspect of match fixing. It is only to execute and put it into full force. Today I've seen an appointment of the integrity officer, Mr. Dennis Gisheru. That demonstrates goodwill on the part of Federation to combat or curb match fixing.
Okay.
And I'll say this, Obango, it's very dangerous for us to take or legislate to the extent that we will empower the state to wade into match fixing. My friend, we will have messed with football. You know, ordinary sports disputes are not supposed to be taken to ordinary courts.
Okay.
There's a whole framework of dealing.
I was just looking at it.
Yes. The moment you take this, to ordinary courts and you take them to DPP,
Pretty
the
much.
Office of the Deputy, the Director of Public Prosecutions,
Okay.
we shall have messed it up.
Fair enough. Let's cross over to Ivy Terry, and then we come back and finish this conversation here. Terry, take it away.
I am with James Situma, and tonight we are asking: is what has Kenya has done? Is it a serious employer? Like football, is football a serious employer? We talk so much about men's football, but let's also talk about women. Is the football economy serious enough for female players?
In our league, in fact, women football, I can say, is an amateur league because you know most of the teams doesn't have professional contracts, I can say. So ni kama unacheza game ya mtaa, and ukiangalia vizuri our football, our women football is the shortest. Kama kuna team inafaa kucheza World Cup haraka sana is women. Unaona, ukiangalia we have a very talented women, wanajisukuma nikitumia word ya Kiswahili. So if we can invest more in women, I believe, because they have to be given the same platform, the same level ground as men, because ukiangalia, by the way, it has really improved, and I really want to give a part for the coaches who are involved in women football, because ukiangalia nowadays hata women football wakicheza like billing from the back, the skills ukiangalia improve sana. So we giving little to women, and you know, we have so many things zenye zinakuwa involved. Ukiangalia maybe from the policy aspect yenye tunafaa pia tupatia our women. Ukiangalia kama maternity policy, na hiyo ndio issue pia tuko nayo as Kenya Footballers Welfare Association to the clubs, whereby you know, they are not given that room ya kuwa parent. As a man unapata maybe I have a wife, if my wife ako maybe pregnant, unapata mimi nitaendelea tu kucheza ball, but for women unapata hiyo chance hawapewi sana na most of our clubs. Unapata if because pia na life ya kuishi, unaweza amua okay, I want to settle, unaona, lakini once unapata maybe anakuwa pregnant, unapata the club wanaona maybe that's the end of her, hatacheza tena mpira. So unapata wengi wanatolewa kwa teams, wanakuwa discriminated. So it's an issue that we need to make sure that even the maternity policy pia zikuwe more implemented, zikuwe zinafuatwa, kwa sababu ukiangalia vizuri huyu msichana anafaa hata akikuja kwa uwanja, acha kuja na mtoi wake. Kama anacheza akifeel maybe it's during half time anataka kwenda kumnyonyesha, aenda nyonyesha mtoto wako, na that's anafeel atacheza na energy na ko more comfortable, and like anacheza mtoi wake yuko ako away. So we need to impress that.
Some of these players, Situma, are impregnated by the people that are supposed to train them and nurture them. For example, there's a club like Gospel United. I think you've heard a story of Gospel. It had to close down because now the officials had took over and they exploited these girls sexually. If girls are playing, and of course you've also talked about breastfeeding mothers, we see them, and they're not proper structures or even proper spaces to allow these girls to just play football freely.
Yeah, so the people in that's not something good or something that we can encourage, because remember, at times mine are being used and we can use the word manipulation, you know, to women footballers, and I believe that's something that has to be taken more seriously. But again, you know, where there is affair involved, along the way we have a lot of broken information, you know, and most of the people go on wanaenda hakuna kitu imefanyika, but ni kitu ambayo unapata hizi vitu zote we under a football body, yenye unapata vile nimesema, we need to come up with good policy zenye unapata sa safeguarding, they have to be implemented na sifuate up to date, unaona. If something happens, lazima mtu face the consequence. But ukiangalia vitu zinafanyika, unapata ngazi na kwanga mingi, nani anajua nani anafanya wapi, kuna na hizo vitu, so unapata in between mchezaji anajipata at a no man's land na anashindwa aende wapi, because unaangalia it's between her na sex manipulator ndio wanajua what happened exactly, unaona. But at times inafika pako unapata like they can't believe maybe msichana kusema ama kitu ilifanyika for a long time and she didn't say, so unapata the information imekatika katikati. But back to the same topic is that we just need to professionalize women football, because ukiangalia outside there, women, even those teams playing in big tournaments, it's a profession, na one game peke yake na change life ya mchezaji. Na ukiangalia like a couple of years back when we had COVID around, it was unfortunate that football stopped, but again it was a blessing in disguise, because our best players, more so in women, walipata platforms na opportunities za kuruka nje na wakacheza nje, na more so ukiangalia kama hata Tanzania imekuwa pia benefit of our women football, girls wetu wameenda hapo, wengi wamecheza sana. But ukiangalia ni vitu lazima tuzifanye, na I'm very happy that Obango touched on something akisema even in our league we need to come up with a minimum wage, whereby so long as you playing the top level you need a certain amount. Na ndio kusema hivi ile draft tumetuma iko na ile kitu nilikuwa naongelea, hizo vitu ziko hapo ndani. So kama federation tunaweza anzisha that discussion. I think itasaidia sana, kwa sababu every detail that touch on a player, be it men or women, kila kitu iko hapo ndani. So it's a discussion that we need to have with the federation, then it can enforce to the clubs, because they are the one who give the license for the clubs to run or to play football.
Thank you so much, James. And of course, I just want to get your parting shot on this topic, of course, football as an employer. And just, I've seen a picture of Mohamed Bajaber. He's just jetting out of the country. He left the camp and now he's jetting out of the country to go and play for Simba. The tension between leaving your ambition as home to go and play abroad, as you've told me, the league has become so unattractive. And tonight we are touching on football as an employer. Give me your final parting shot.
Yeah, I think he was at a crossroad, in between rock and a hard place, because you know, I remember he has just had a couple of I think two, 3 caps in the national team. Wakati ametoka City Stars again. We hosting a very prestigious tournament in our country, and you hear like you have an offer, and then when you look back the history of our but at the end of the day, by the way, he's still in the national team. So it's just that he will miss the CHAN tournament. But again, the future engagement of the national team, he's 100% involved. So for me, it's a good move, of course. If you ask me, with the situation, with the history and the culture of our country, he made the right decision.
Thank you so much. As James Situma, of course, tonight. I'm handing you over back to Keitani, but remember we are coming back for some feedback before we can close. Keitani, take it away.
Thank you very much, Ivy Cherry. Let me come back to Wakili. Briefly, the Ministry of Sports was accorded enough to, you know, undertake all these issues that we're talking about, infrastructure, you know, sports academies.
The next the sports ministry, the sports actually it's the youth affairs, creative economies and sports ministry. it may be the least funded, and most of that money goes to trips, foreign trips, or participation to international competitions. What motivates or actually makes me happy is that there has been an increment on the incentives. So for persons bagging gold or representation in Kenya, and then you bag some top honors, I think there was 600% increment.